the magic carpet ride continues. This ball club has been amazing all season long.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the program. Seattle Mariners Baseball is brought to you in part by Eagle Hardware and Garden and by Alvin Goldfarb Jewelers.
Hearing Rick Riz there scream, "They're going as playoff contenders." Never have I been more proud of a third place team in my life.
Oh, dude, you gotta love third place. Well, anyways, it is episode number 24 of Swinging for the Fences, and of course that would mean Ken Griffey Jr. and I believe it wasn't that Mickey Brantley as well. Wasn't the Mick number 24 prior to Junior? Anyways,
he was the last player to wear number 24. That's correct.
That is correct. All right. Well, I'm Steve Silver, and of course, joining me always on Tuesday afternoons is Chris Swanson. What's going on, Swanee?
Trying to diagnose the Seattle sports scene right now.
Trying to diagnose
team that you talk about a team that was a contender, all of a sudden just folded over the last month and a half, and then a Mariner team that boy, when they win, they've turned it around. It happens in a 24-hour cycle. When they win, they have turned it around. When they lose, it's early.
It's early, yeah. Well, I got to be honest with you. I left for the great state of Michigan literally, I'm going to say, a half year before the Kraken came online. And so emotionally speaking, I'm not really invested in the Kraken. I've seen them live down at Little Caesars Arena when they came through Detroit. But outside of that, I don't really think I even give a care. I just don't give a shit.
As a lifelong Vancouver Canucks fan, nor do I.
Yeah, I can't get into the Kraken. I'm sure Seattle is going, batshit crazy over the fact that, they made the playoffs last year and all that.
They did do that. They did the good vibes, but over that. That's for sure. But
yeah,
it didn't really translate into this year. This was a theme this last weekend too. All season long at the Kraken games, when the visiting team would score a goal, holy shit, was that place loud. That's a bad sign. I know there's a lot of transplants out here. That's a bad sign. You know where else that happened most recently?
Where's that?
T-Mobile Park. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Chicago Cubs, yeah.
And when J-Rod was picked off first base, and I'm sure we'll get into that a little deeper.
Yeah, we will.
And the game on Sunday, the umpire made the announcement that the call was overturned. There was a few, but man alive, was there a lot of cheers? I was going, okay, not exactly a Wrigley West, but a good, solid number of Cub fans there, masqueraded by the fact that they all wear blue. So kind of like the Dodgers fans being there, It's not like when the Angels fans all come and everybody's in red and it. But
right.
It was an interesting weekend in Seattle sports for sure.
The last time I was in Seattle was last November, and I went to a Kraken game with my ex-wife. The Vancouver Canucks were in town, and 3/4 of Climate Pledge Arena were Vancouver Canucks fans that came down from Vancouver. And of course, Vancouver absolutely kicked the shit out of the Kraken, and it really felt like it was up north of the border.
That's why they didn't play the Winter Classic on January 1st. That's why they didn't play Vancouver. There's two reasons they didn't play Vancouver at T-Mobile Park in that game. Number one, no U.S. TV network is going to set up and promote that game to be played against a Canadian team because it's going to be against Vegas, but it's going to be against the Kings or Detroit. It's going to be against another American team to reach into another American TV market. Also, so that's one thing. Also, the Kraken were spared the embarrassment of having, they supposedly put 40,000 or close to 40,000 fans in there, which I don't doubt. There was a lot of people went to that game.
There was there. Yeah,
that's
for sure.
You see, that's once in 10, 20 year type game. So it was very cool. But they were spared the embarrassment of 29,000 of those fans being Vancouver fans.
Yeah,
because that's what would have happened had they played.
That would have 100% would have happened.
Arenas, I'm sure you saw, phenomenal place. Boy, that place.
Dude,
That they really, as much as we have complained about Key Arena and Seattle Center before,
that place blows it away.
Arena was every year was cured with that play. It is really awesome. Dude. Parking sucks. It's expensive to eat, but as a place to watch a game, it is phenomenally good.
When the Sonics eventually come back, that is going to be a very good building for NBA basketball, because even for hockey, there's no bad seat in the place. But I digress. All right. For fuck's sake, enough about Kraken hockey. The Seattle Mariners finally put together a fucking complete game last night from start to finish. They took advantage of Frankie Montas early, who literally could not throw a strike. What was surprising was in that first inning when Julio was again trying to swing through inside fastballs, was still managed to draw a walk in that first inning. And of course, Jorge Polanco hit the big 3-run blast. And then Mitch Haniger 2 innings later put essentially, in my mind, put that game away with a 2-run blast of his own. George Kirby had another quality start for the rotation, and I think that's the first time through the rotation where all 5 put together a quality start. So small signs, Swanee. Small signs of things are starting to percolate a little bit. I wouldn't say coming alive, because you can't really say coming alive when Mitch Garver is not hitting at all. J.P. Crawford, I know he had a little four-game hit streak there amid the 1-for-4s, but for the most part, he's not squaring anything up yet. Julio Rodriguez is non-existent. Let's see. Cal Raleigh, outside of his home run in Toronto, has been non-existent. And Ty France, after starting the season in the 8-hole right there and kind of looking somewhat sharp to start the season, he's kind of, I wouldn't say fallen off, but he's kind of hit the skids a little bit. So
he's been more consistent, though.
I would say that last night was a good sign. I wouldn't say that they're back yet, because in order for them to be back, they would probably have to go through a full week's worth of games where, they're averaging 5-6 runs a game and they're getting six innings per start from the rotation. That's, you can probably say it then, but right now, last night was a nice win. It was a nice step in the right direction.
Yeah. I want to see what they do the next 2 games here. Are they finally going to be able to win a series? And why winning a series is so important? Because the current regime that runs the Mariners has done nothing for 4 years, about 5 years really, about talk about how important it is to win a series. They kind of have a script they follow, whether they win or lose the first game. And last night they won the first game of the series. So post game, of course, turned into, we got a chance to go out and, tomorrow and win the series. Okay, well, I mean, really, it would be, how cool would it be to win like 7 in a row? That would be good. Yeah. So the Mariners have yet to win a series. They can put that to rest tonight if they can go out and win.
Sure can.
Last night being the first game all season where they had more hits than strikeouts. And it was amazing, Montas' bad start. It's amazing how effective this offense can be when they go up there and just don't swing. Like literally,
I'm with you.
Going up to the plate and doing nothing turned out to be more effective than what they've been doing for the previous 2.5 weeks. It's a decent win. Nobody's running away with the division. So I'll say it's early, but you know what? Until I start to see some real roster moves, I'm just not going to be all that enthralled. I will say this with the starting pitching, though. Kirby's good start and followed by another good start on Sunday. Pitchers still being pulled, other than Luis Castillo the other night, who I think actually went 101 pitches. A lot of pitchers. Kirby went out last night with 89 pitches in 6 innings.
Yep.
Can't go 99. Can't get 10 more pitches out of him. 2/3 of more of an inning out of him. Then it goes Spire, Miller, Saucedo to finish it out in the bullpen, which is fine. The bullpen's actually pitched, for the most part, it's actually pitched fairly well. It's been maybe the brightest spot on this team through 17 games. But I've heard a lot lately, and it started a week into the season, about how worked the bullpen has been. Last I checked, the manager has control over how worked the bullpen is.
Yeah.
So I'm not really sure. It's almost like they're building in a preordained excuse or something like that. So that's annoying. But yeah, that batting order you and I have talked about before, that's time for a shakeup, I think. But
speaking of roster moves on, I believe it was on Sunday, Dom Canzone made a great play against the wall. In turn, sprained his shoulder. And in turn, the Mariners called up Jonatan Clase from AAA Tacoma. Now, I don't know how you feel about this move. I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of this one because really he hasn't had that much success above A-ball. And granted, I guess he was on a little bit of a hot streak down in Tacoma. But I don't know, man. This kind of reeks a little bit of desperation from the Mariners. It doesn't necessarily fit their MO for guys, for how they bring up guys or what they want in somebody when they bring up. But Jonatan Clase is the guy. He's a switch hitter. He's got very top end speed. So if he can get on, he could be something to handle with on base. But therein lies my problem, because if you know this, I mean, you cover minor league baseball. You know a lot about Mariners minor league baseball.
I was there Friday night when he homered over the right field wall.
Yeah,
you got video.
But but you also know that he can also tend to strike out a bit, and that's and that for me is the crux of the problem, because if you have seen major league debuts of top prospects that came through over the course of the last 5 years, you know that major league pitchers are not going to give them fastball. There's going to be no steady dose of fastballs. It's going to be off speed, sweepers, sliders, changeups, and that's going to be that steady dose until Clase can prove that he can actually handle one and do some damage. And so for me, the risk of disrupting his development and putting him in a situation where he may or may not get a lot of hits or even get on base to use his speed, on top of the fact that I don't really think he's that great of a defender. I don't like the move, man.
I was stunned that he was actually playing in AAA. That's a departure from what the Mariners do. The Mariners lately have just been keep all the prospects in AA, inflate their numbers, where they're going against pitchers who you either throwing at your eyes or they're throwing at your shoelaces, and then fall behind in the count 2-0, 3-0, and then give you a fatty down the plate that you can hit. But you're right. He didn't have as great numbers, but I guess the power numbers were good enough that warranted a push up to AAA. I was glad that he started this season in AAA. I mean, I don't have a problem with the move. I guess what I would ask is, what happened to all the depth that this team supposedly had? Why does he even have to be brought up? What's wrong with putting, Luke Raleigh in left field and keeping Haniger in right field? Now you have to have Haniger DH because Mitch Garver fucking sucks shit and has been a disaster out of the gate. I think he has one extra base hit this season.
I believe you're right. No, I think it's two. I think he's got a couple doubles.
Okay.
But my question is simply, what does Jonatan Clase give you that, guys like Cade Marlowe have, or like you know exactly what he can give you at the major league level, and it's not that bad. Guys like Samad Taylor, who can give you top end production. I wouldn't say top end production, but can give you better production for that roster spot. Guys that are already on the 40-man roster. And I understand that Marlowe got off to a little bit of a slow start down in Tacoma, but over the course of the last week, he's starting to pick it up a little bit. I don't know.
I on the 40-man though.
Right, but yeah, and I believe Cade Marlowe's on the 40-man. Same with Samad Taylor, and Taylor didn't have to wait the obligatory 10 days because he can get called up because of an injury. He doesn't have to wait the 10 days.
Yeah, that's true.
It just surprising, just surprising that they would go with Jonatan Clase in this situation over
instead of bringing Taylor
guys,
back up.
Yeah, or Taylor or Marlowe who have produced for you at the major league level.
If I was a betting man, I would say it has more to do with Clase still has options left, so he's easier to move back down when the time comes. But then again, so is Samad Taylor, I think, because Taylor was up with the Royals, so I don't know what his up and down situation is.
I think a prospect has overall, I think they have 6 options. It's something like that, I believe.
Yeah, and how much of Samad Taylor's were burned up in the Royals organization? I'm not sure.
I'm not sure either.
So I don't know. Dom Canzone, I think Dom Canzone's injury was one of the most perplexing things. He was running and luckily made the catch and made a fine play, but when he was running and hit that wall, it was as if he was surprised that a wall was there. He was 2 steps onto. Watch that play again.
Yeah,
that's why he hit it at an odd angle, because he wasn't able to brace himself with his left shoulder. But it was kind of like he was 2 steps into the warning track, which you can definitely feel the difference in your feet when you go from the grass to the cinder dirt of a warning track. It's obvious. Sure. If anything, it slows you down because you don't have the same footing. Maybe not a lot because you're only 2 steps into it. And he has pretty good speed. He was running fast in the first place. But you watch that again. I'm telling you, find that on YouTube. Watch that again. And it looks like, he just forgot that a wall was going to be there. So I know he goes on the DL. I know that he was leading the team in home runs, but to me, it was more of a disappointment that he was your home run leader and not somebody that, frankly, it should be like a Garver or Julio or I think Haniger's there now. But
Haniger's got 3 now. I think Polanco's got 3 now.
Okay.
So yeah,
the Clase move just to me struck of, well, we need to bring a guy up. Let's bring him up. Let's see how it goes, and then we'll option him back down. Because we've already seen Marlowe and we've already seen Samad Taylor. I would argue, though, Samad Taylor they haven't seen enough of. I think he only played in 4 games. He didn't have very many bats.
Well, here's the thing, right? I know the conventional wisdom is that this is only going to be a short-term move, except the Mariners are saying that they're going to be playing him. The question is how long
up there.
Exactly. And how long is Dom Canzone going to be out? Well, yesterday he was on the steps of the dugout. Arm is not in a sling. So I would probably think that it's, I think what the DL now is, I think the DL is now 10 days. I would probably think I would probably think this is not going to be a long-term injury that's going to keep him out for a few months. But that being said, though,
well, if it's not serious, then the bigger mistake was putting him on the injured list in the first place, because you could have missed just 2 or 3 games. And now you've burned up an option on him, and you're handcuffed. You're not going to have Canzone, which I'm not sure how great Canzone is to begin with and how much he really deserves to be in the starting lineup. Anyway, that's another argument. But now you're handcuffed. You won't have him back until probably, 10 games? Would that be the Braves series next week?
The 26th. So is retroactive Sunday, which was the 14th. So I believe so. I believe you're right. The Brave series. So
I'm sorry. It's before the Brave series. It's at Texas.
At Texas.
Wouldn't hurt to have power when you're playing there.
My thinking is, why not bring up the guy who defensively can play all 3 outfield positions, that actually can spell Haniger and right if you need to give him a day and move him to the DH. Same thing with Julio. Cade Marlowe gives you all that, and I don't know. I think his bat is far more along for major league pitching than Jonatan Clase. Although the excitement is in the unknown, and I don't know, man. I'm just not a fan of it. It
creates a buzz. It's, hey, they're bringing him up. Yeah. It also this, Steve. It also showcases a guy, now that he's got a couple of major league bats and some tape on him. Also showcases him as a trade piece.
As a trade piece, yeah. All right. So in the midst of yesterday's win, Julio Rodriguez yesterday went 1 for 4 with a walk and a single. Except I've started noticing a trend, and I'm wondering if you've noticed this as well too, of the way teams are starting to pitch to Julio Rodriguez, which is there was a vast difference in his first 2 years where everything was low and away, sweepers low and away, sweepers low and away, and a steady dose of changeups. And we're watching Julio basically flail for the first half of 2 seasons, and now we're starting to see teams attack him inside with fastballs, running 2-seamers, cutters, and not letting his hands get extended. And of course, we're seeing Julio trying to battle through that, which is a lot of foul tips, a lot of swings and misses, and then if it gets to a two strike count, you see the high fastball or you see the slider low and away.
No, I absolutely have noticed that. I've noticed a lot of high and in, and when you say high and in, people immediately think he's being thrown at. No, that's not what I mean. A lot of high fastballs, a lot of high cutters on the inside part of the plate, and a lot of called third strikes, high and in. And one of the things I love about Root Sports is that box that they have over home plate. Yeah. You see a lot, and their little EQC tracer, which if a pitch is called a strike and it's outside that box, they go ballistic. If a pitch is called a strike and the crowd boos, and then they replay it and it's actually a strike, caught the edge, caught
the edge, yeah.
Then they just sit there in silence and don't say anything. It's almost comedic. But there have been a lot of pitches high and in that zone that he's been caught looking at. Maybe not for a strikeout, but caught looking for the first strike or the second strike. So it just seems like pitchers are attacking the whole zone on him. And you mentioned a great point you make about getting the hands extended, because that's really, or get out in front. A lot of hitters, it's tough for them to hit compact things inside. JP can do it. Ty France can do it. I'm trying to think. Cal Raleigh is kind of a guy that needs to get extended. Haniger, to an extent, is a guy. Haniger can hit an inside pitch. He just has to really be looking for it and pull it, because he has versatility as a batter. But I think it's a handicap for some guys. And I think when I think of hands getting extended, and this is going back a ways, the first thing I think of is Dave Winfield back in the day. I mean, when there's a guy whose hands got extended, good Lord, look out. Whereas you had power hitters that could turn on an inside pitch and hit everything in the zone, make all the Jose Canseco jokes you want about steroids and whatnot, but he was able to turn on pitches inside and even play or hit line drives.
Edgar.
It seems that teams have attacked, and they've been effective at it. Yeah. And when one team sees it effective, another team's going to do it. And there's a reason. I think Julio only has a handful of. I'll look up his stats real quick. Julio only has a handful. Does he have a triple and 2 doubles this year? No home runs.
Julio over the course of the last 5 games is 3 for 17, 2 RBIs, no extra base hits, 8 Ks, 1 walk.
Yeah.
So, and that's, and that's, I get this question sometimes a lot. It's like, what's the problem with Julio? Well, that's the problem. He's not getting his hands extended. He's not able to get his bat through the contact zone. And there's a reason why you're not seeing it. You're not seeing a lot of stuff middle, or even, middle just a little bit down, because the last thing anybody wants is to see Julio get extended and actually get to his power zone. By consistently going inside and on the hands, he has to cheat. He has to cheat and try to get out in front of it and try to pull the ball. And what you're seeing is, his timing obviously has not been good from the start of the season. And now trying to cheat a little bit to try to get out in front of anything inside. It's either he's either going to make contact, it's either going to get fouled back, or it's going to get fouled down the third base line. And that's the biggest problem with Julio is he's trying to be aggressive, but it almost seems to be like it's a little bit of a reckless aggressive.
What would be good sometimes? Can break a guy out of a slump. Sometimes just getting a poke, getting a dead duck that falls. It's okay to get those type of hits. Yeah, it's okay. Who got a lot of those hits last week? The Cubs.
Yeah, well, you know what? It also worked? How about Luke Riley last night in his first at-bat drops a bunt down the third base line?
And that's about time. I mean? That was a sight for sore eyes.
Dude, that was such a slick little play. Dude, Rayleigh knowing that he's also been struggling. gets, just decides to drop one down, gets on base, and later in the game hits a low liner for a triple. You know what I mean? It's like the small things that you can do to get yourself out of a slump.
I heard Wally Backman one time. There's a great kind of a reality / documentary show. It was they filmed it years ago. A friend of mine who's a filmmaker, a guy I met back in Madison, is a filmmaker named John Fitzgerald. It's a series called Playing with Peanuts. It was on YouTube for the longest time. Wally Backman was managing a team in an independent league down in Georgia, Florida, South Carolina years back. And Backman, some of the things he talks about is he's telling guys, he's like, listen, you can bunt your way out of a slump. You get a couple of hits, and he goes, the year I hit 320 for the Mets, he goes, I probably had 25 bunt singles that season. Absolutely. He goes, if I don't have those, I'm hitting 280 something, and I'm back in Norfolk. I'm back down playing for the Tidewater Tides. So that was a sight for sore eyes to see. You don't see that very often. But the reason I bring up the soft hits, what happened in baseball, Steve? And what happened in this Well, I know what happened in this organization, but what happened in baseball when, getting a hit wasn't good enough? I hear more bragging about guys and how hard they hit the ball with that exit velocity. But if you hit it right at the shortstop or right at the first baseman or third baseman, which happened a couple times Saturday in the loss against the Cubs, at third baseman Morrill made 2 really good plays that basically saved that game. Oh, but he hit the ball hard. And then the other team gets a couple of soft hits. I remember it happened with the Dodgers series last year when the Mariners absolutely got an anvil shoved up their ass in that series and got swept, and really was the beginning of the end of their season. I mean, that one didn't officially eliminate them, but boy, it was a kick in the balls they could ill afford at the time. And everybody on the broadcast radio and TV just going, oh, these soft hits. Oh, well, I guess that one counts. I guess they all count. Very demeaning towards the hits that they got. Last I checked, the hits count and gets guys on base. And for by the way, team that has now told us they want to play station-to-station baseball, we don't want to rely on the home run. That's not the type of team we're being. Almost every win this season, Steve, has relied on the 3-run homer or 2-run homer to at least put the game away or keep them in it. Yeah. So I'm confused.
Well, but not only have they flipped the script, but not only are they talking about wanting to see the home run, but every single fan, if you check comments, every single fan wants to see the home run.
Mm-hmm.
Except
if that's the Kool-Aid drinkers, they're okay with the.
But what I'm saying though is that as that's the litmus test for this offense.
That is what the Major League Baseball has turned into, for better or worse. You look at it, the proof is in the pudding. You look over the last 5 years. Who's winning the games in the postseasons? Jesus Christ, go back to the Astros series in the divisional series against the Mariners in 2022. What won that series for Houston? And you can say Alvarez versus Robbie Ray. Sure. What won that series? Home runs. Jeremy Pena homering in the top of the 18th. Alvarez homering twice in game 2. The home runs, because pitching is so good that station-to-station baseball is just very tough to play. Even with the rule changes of, a relief pitcher, you can't have the specialist, no more Mark Zipchinskis who come in and throw, to one batter and then they're gone. You have to face the 3 batters. Okay, but teams are getting around that by, he gave up a hit, and then he got that guy out, then he gave up a hit, and then we intentionally walked the next guy so that I can change pitchers because he technically faced 3 batters. I mean, there's a manipulation around it.
Sure, so let me ask you though:
is it on the home run for offense? It's not because it's a necessity more than anything else.
Whoa!
And I don't even think it's wrong.
So you're saying that the old school National League way of playing baseball can't be played in today's Major League Baseball?
No, it certainly can. It's just not. I don't think it can be played.
Oh no, I agree.
The pitching is so. I think the pitching is so good, and plus, I kind of have to throw out. This actually disappoints me, and maybe you as a purist as well. But I was disappointed to see the DH come in the National League. I thought the way they did it before was great. Hell, when I play video game baseball, I still play the National League games with the DH off.
It's because it forced you, that's the thing. The national with the pitcher hitting in the National League, it basically forced you to have to drill bunts.
Yep.
You were forced to drill bunts, right? And so
you had to be a tactician as a manager.
The thing with
we don't have managers like that anymore.
Yeah, well, today's Major League Baseball hates bunts because technically speaking, you're giving away outs, and a lot of teams don't want to give away outs, which is why you hardly ever see bunts. And it baffles my mind because at the end of the day, if your philosophy is, and I'll use this term, if your philosophy is control the zone, which the Mariners love to talk about controlling the zone, then your hitting approach should be having even contact, even swings through the contact zone, and whatever happens. If that's a single, then take it. If it's a double, take it. The reality is there's nothing, especially with some of these guys that are struggling. If the Mariners are in a position where they have a runner on first base, there's nothing wrong with swiping second base or even laying down a bunt and getting runners in scoring position. The more opportunities that you have with runners in the scoring position, the odds say that eventually those runs are going to come into score. I understand what happened in Sunday's game against Chicago, the 7th and 8th inning particularly, when the Mariners had the bases loaded in the 8th inning and couldn't tie the game. I mean, that, I hate to say that. I mean, technically
3 times they grounded into double plays to end innings.
Yeah. Technically speaking,
can't help but wonder if one bunt there might at least help.
Technically speaking, that's the exception and not the rule. Eventually, you're going to find a base hit somewhere. But that being said, it's the mindset. It's the mindset of how you come up to the plate. Are you looking to be the hero and then drive in, get the grand slam so you can be seen on ESPN and get your dick sucked? Are you just looking to win? Are you looking to win ball games? I mean, what's your attitude? What's your mentality coming up to the plate? And time again, it almost seems like when you see Garver taking swings, although that's a bad example. When you see Julio taking swings, that dude is coming out of his shoes.
Yeah. In
the first inning, in the 7th inning, in the 9th inning. Same with Ty France. That was the to me, that was almost the shocking thing because I believe Ty France was the one that grounded out into the double play in the 8th inning to kill it.
I believe so.
I believe it was Ty France, and I think it was like some weak ass contact on a high fastball. And he had pitches. That's the and I believe it was Hector Neris that was on the hill.
Yeah,
the Cubs, right? And he threw him 2 pitches middle. One he looked at, one he got underneath, and I think he hit it foul. And then he goes, and then I think it went ball 1, and then he gets a fastball slightly up, and this dude is trying to kill the baseball instead of just looking to make good easy contact and putting the ball in play. And of course he tops it and he rolls over on it, inning over.
It was strike looking. I'm looking at that chart now. Yeah, the first one was a 4-seam. I mean, at the very least, he had a 5-pitch at bat, which is better than the 6th inning because the Mariners got 2 on, nobody out in the 7th inning. This is when I knew, listen, you got to change this philosophy or you're in a world of hurt. Dylan Moore got hit by a pitch. Mitch Garver, good on him. Again, didn't bother swinging the bat. Something positive happened. He walked. You got 2 on, nobody out. Bottom 7th in a 3-2 game. You chase their starting pitcher. Mark Leiter Jr. comes into a situation. 2 on, nobody out. He throws 1 pitch, gets Raleigh to fly to center. Next batter, 1 pitch, Luke Raley grounds into a double play into a 4-6-3. Relief pitcher came in and threw 2 pitches. Two fucking pitches, and got 3 outs. So what happened to patience at the plate?
Now I understand.
We're not going to swing at everything.
Now I understand.
That had all the makings of an inning that could have been big. You get Moore, and Garvin Moore was in there obviously for Canzone.
Now here's what I will say on this one. Now I understand not wanting to take the bat out of Cal Raleigh's hands, but that being said, Cal Raleigh's one of the guys that are struggling. Okay, now imagine 2 on, nobody out, or 2 on, 1 out. Was it 1 out or 2 outs?
Well, Raleigh was the first out of the inning.
Okay, yeah. So 2 on, nobody out, and he drops a bunt. Okay, he drops a bunt.
Sure.
Anywhere halfway up the third baseline. Okay, he's going to be out at first because Cal Raleigh's slow as fuck. But now you have runners on second and third, and now you take the double play away, and now you have 2 cracks with Luke Raley. So instead of defense playing at double play depth. Okay, they're playing back. They're not going to play up. They're not going to play out. No, they're not going to play up against the turf. They're going to be playing back because they're playing for the out. They're going to be playing for the out at first. So
I think they might have been playing up in a 1-run game, but it's an interesting point. It could have gone either way.
Okay, so anyways, anything to the right side of the diamond between first base and second base, the tying run scores.
Yeah.
Any ground ball, the tying run scores. And at
a
the
ball
very
up the
least,
middle, which is where I believe Raleigh grounded into. Went to the second baseman, but I want to say it was deep second base. So if they are playing up, probably gets past them. If they are playing back, the tying run scores, and you live to fight another day.
Exactly, right? So at least you come away with 1.
Yes.
Okay. And I understand the philosophy of the new age baseball, and I hate using the term. I'm an old school guy, but seriously, don't overthink this. And sometimes the old school approach actually fucking makes sense.
Yeah.
Because in that situation, at the very fucking least, you bring in the goddamn time run. So you're absolutely right. You live to fight another day. And in the 8th inning, maybe you actually take the lead.
It's exactly, yes, because you could have done the exact same thing in the 8th inning and taken the lead.
That's exactly
because you were in the exact same situation before Haniger struck out to make it 2 on, 1 out. Then they got to walk to load the bases. It's bases loaded and 1 out. I mean, hell, in that, do you put it even then? Could you put it? I know Ty France is hitting, and he's not really the guy that you want to lay down a squeeze bunt on. He's one of your better hitters. You would think he could at least get a fly ball out of it, but it's as if winning isn't enough, Steve. We got to win our way. Yeah, but then they don't. And when they do win, like last night, it's because they won hitting home runs.
Right. And I just like, that's the thing. It's like you sometimes.
Which I don't have a problem with, by the way.
Right. I don't either. But I'm just saying sometimes that if the home run is not there, and you can figure out a way to manufacture some runs.
Yeah.
Right. It's a small ball approach. And I'll tell you what, it gives you another opportunity to get into extra innings, which, by the way, the Mariners are pretty goddamn good in extra innings so far this year.
Especially at home.
Right.
Especially at home.
Yeah. So and that's,
and that's the thing.
And the crazy thing is that it boggles my mind that you're going to spend the entire offseason reformulating your lineup to bring more contact to your lineup, but yet you're still utilizing the same philosophy, which got you in trouble. Let's be real. The last 3 seasons, granted, 2 of them were 90-win seasons, but the offensive woes are still consistent throughout all 3 years because they weren't hot wire to wire. You know what I mean? They still had their spells where they couldn't hit water if it fell out of a fucking boat.
Yep.
So, all right. So, as we're moving into the second part of the today's show, I would be remiss if I didn't give out a little shout out to the starting rotation, more specifically Emerson Hancock, who literally I would think that was on life support against the Cubs, against Imanaga, who came into that game having yet giving up a run. It was going to be an uphill climb, considering that Emerson Hancock, the last time out, got absolutely shelled. And of course, I don't think Service did enough to yank him early, didn't protect him a little bit, and absolutely got clobbered. But you know what, though? He rebounds going 6, giving up 2 runs on 4 hits, 4 strikeouts, no walks. He did give up a long ball, but that being said, I think that was a pitcher's pitch that was in the right spot, and and I believe it was Bush that got out in front of it and did what he's supposed to do. But that being said, man,
206 innings should get you a win. And yeah, he gave up a home run, but again, 74 pitches he's pulled at.
Yeah, no. Here's the thing, though, right? For a lot of shit that Mariner fans are talking about Emerson Hancock, about not having the stuff to be a consistent major leaguer, to be able to do that against a Cubs team that actually hits the fastball incredibly well.
Mm-hmm.
They're aggressive early and they hit the fastball incredibly well to basically neutralize him for 2 runs through 6 innings. And I agree with you. I actually thought he was looking good. I actually thought by that time his velocity dipped a little bit. So if this was Miller, I probably would have a problem with it. But considering Hancock gave you 6, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with him being taken out when he was taken out. But you're absolutely right.
Okay,
that was good. That was good enough to listen. If you're
when the manager after the game comes out and talks about, and the next day, our bullpen has worked. We got a couple guys not available.
I get it.
What the fuck? You're creating this.
I get it. But you know what? The one thing I
caught up in that third time through the order thing too.
I will say this though: when you looked at the opening velocity of Emerson Hancock towards the end of the 6th inning, it dipped a little bit, and you're going through the third time third time. I understand what Service. I understand what Service was doing, and I don't necessarily because.
Well, it's the organization's philosophy.
But I will say this: that at least he had his back this time around versus what happened in Milwaukee.
Okay.
When he left him out there, and he was already in the 80+ column, and he was absolutely getting shelled. At least he had the wherewithal to pull him after this and protect him a little bit. I'm okay with that. But that being said, though, I tip my hat to Emerson Hancock because there was a lot of chatter about maybe bringing up Levi Strout or Jonathan Diaz, or having Austin both come out of the bullpen and having a bullpen, if that didn't translate, having a bullpen day, and Emerson Hancock stood tall. I liked his composure. He wasn't too high, wasn't too low. He just went out there and attacked Cubs hitters. I know a lot of people will probably look at Castillo's start, which was miles ahead better than his last 3 starts. But I think this week, if there was any one starter in the rotation that actually went out there and showed a lot of guts, it was Emerson Hancock.
Yeah, he pitched well. Deserved more.
Yeah. All right. So I just had to do that, man. I had to give a shout out to Emerson Hancock. But you brought up a very interesting conversation starter before we went on the air, and that is with J.P. Crawford. You were of the opinion that J.P. Crawford right now probably should not be the leadoff hitter.
I mean, would it kill you to drop him down to 8 or 9 where he has had success before? And then the question becomes, well, who do you put in the leadoff spot? I understand
I've heard Josh Rojas's name
for the leadoff spot
as a leadoff hitter. And that Service is
worth a try. I'd rather see Julio in the leadoff spot than hitting second. I'd rather see Julio hitting first or third than second.
Yep.
I think second's a waste, especially when you're coming up virtually every time, and your guy in front of you did not get on base. So
I know that Scott Service is not afraid to shuffle his lineup. I mean, he did move Julio down in the order. I would probably assume that if it was beneficial, that they would move Julio up. Although I'm of the opinion that Julio Rodriguez needs to be batting third every day, all day. Mm-hmm. And I would not have a problem with moving JP down if it means that maybe you take a little pressure off his shoulders right now, because maybe he's pressing a little bit. Because I mean, ultimately, JP is not going to be a high exit velo guy. That's not his game. He is
nor should he be. I mean, there's a guy that
right.
A good little poke to right field that's a table starter. That's a table setter.
When JP's at his best, he is a singles and doubles guy, gap to gap, but he's never really been a high exit velo guy. He is exactly that. He's the guy that uses the entire field. And right now, it seems to me that he's pressing a little bit, but he's also not squaring up the pitches that he usually squares up. And I don't know if I don't know if that's a timing issue. I don't know what that is, because that's for a guy who took his game to an unbelievable level last year. It just seems to me that it almost seems like it's a mechanical problem, like a swing mechanics issue.
Well, no organization in baseball has been better at fucking up guys' swings in the last 15 years than the Mariners. But this wouldn't make sense because his swing has been very good for 5 years now. Are they trying to change him into more of a harder slap hitter, more of a pull hitter because teams aren't shifting on him when he comes up? I don't know. I mean, I hope not, because he is one of his good abilities is to be able to spray the ball all over the place.
Right.
I mean, that's one of his best things. I just wonder if maybe moving him down to 8 or 9, having him be the guy that turns over the lineup, maybe for a couple of games. I don't know if would it kill you to try. I mean, and unless in the next 2 days you start seeing some signs of him coming out, the funk or whatnot. But I don't know.
I mean, he had that little 4-game hit streak. Now, granted, it was 1 for 4 performances, but he did have himself a little 4-game hit streak before last night. Although yesterday he was able to draw a leadoff walk, so it's nice and that's the thing, is it's nice to see JP still doing the little things to get on base, because in the span of the last 5 games he does have 4 walks. So in between of going 4 for 19. He still has figured out a way to get on base, but I might be with this opinion. It just depends on who are you going to have leading off. Now, is it going to be cost beneficial to have Julio back in the leadoff spot? Are you missing anything by him hitting number 2? And by the way, will that be beneficial to Julio leading off?
Well, if the approach is to have him go up there and not try to hit home runs, then yes. But it seems like he's going up there and still trying to kill the ball, and now just isn't even getting the pitches to, like we talked about earlier.
Right.
Now he isn't even getting the pitches to get the opportunity to kill the ball. You present a conundrum, a quandary, a quagmire here. I don't know how to get out of it, because there's really nobody else I look at and go, well, you can move him into the leadoff spot. That would work.
Giggity.
I don't think Polanco is a guy that you want to move up there. It's typically an on-base guy is what you want. And I mean, it's unconventional to have a Ty France moved up in there, but
100%.
I think you almost have to put a Rojas, Rayleigh, can't have Mitch up there. That's just not.
No,
you could put Mitch up there, but you'd be losing something in the middle of the lineup.
Right. Rayleigh would be an interesting thought, but I will say this before we get to our winners and losers. I will just say this, that we've seen when Julio was our leadoff hitter for the year and a half that he was the leadoff guy, he still went up looking to kill the ball every single time he went up to the plate. Leadoff spot or not, I think that really is just his game, and that's just his approach. And that's the thing. It's like, I guess it would be a cost benefit issue for me. It's like, by putting Julio in the leadoff spot, is he going to be able to see enough pitches where he can extend and actually, be the guy that everybody just assumes that he is? I don't know. I don't have that answer, and I would like to say no, but I don't know.
Okay.
All right. So we're at that point of the show, 10 minutes remaining. It is time for winners and losers of the week. It is our opportunity to let you guys know who had a good week and who shit the bed royally.
Okay.
All right. So what do you want to start off with, winners or losers this week?
I'll start off with my loser.
All right. Fair enough.
Scott Service, a guy who does nothing but boast about how they're a different team, changing their attitude. You've heard me rail on this for weeks, months, and frankly, almost a year now, of saying that we're going to do something different, but they don't do anything different. But that's not what I want to hit him for this week. What I want to hit him for is the solo home runs aren't what kills you. Solo home runs is not what beats you. It's home runs with guys on base is what beats you. Would anybody see Saturday night's game? You know, you ain't going to get beat by the solo home run. Yet when you only score one run and they hit multiple solo home runs, I'm not good at math, Steve.
Yeah. But by the way, that seems like a very good Ron Fairleyism right there.
Yeah.
You know, solo home runs ain't going to beat you. It's home runs with runners
until they
on
hit
that are going to
three of them.
Until they hit four.
And you hit one.
You hit one.
I mean, you know, math usually doesn't lose. He's my loser of the week.
I will double. I have a different loser, but I will just say this: when you give a player a day off for a mental break, and they gave Julio Rodriguez a day off for a mental break.
Does he work at Google?
He's a baseball player. First and foremost, are we that soft where we have to give mental breaks?
$18 million a year he makes.
18. So that's number one. But number two, you give him a mental break, but then you bring him into the ball game in one of the most high leverage situations, and as a pinch runner, the Mariners are down one, and now you bring him in because, you know, obviously, and I think Service says, well, you know, he's got speed, so obviously we're going to bring him into the game. Well, then why the fuck did you give him the day off?
Mm-hmm.
If you're just going like, and by the way, I didn't have a problem with it. I just thought it was extremely fucking funny that you gave him a mental day off and then you bring him in the ninth inning only to see him get picked off at first base.
Yeah.
It makes him look like a fool. That's what it makes him look like. I don't know. Maybe you have a different definition of fool, but I don't know.
No, I didn't hear the radio broadcast coming, and one of my coworkers did, and he was telling me the exact same thing. And that Rick Riz, for about 3 innings, would not shut up about how just you gotta give him a day off, and he kind of needs a mental break day. If you look at the schedule in April, I think the Mariners have almost every Thursday off on the schedule until next week. Then it starts to change up a little bit. So it's not like guys are getting the day off. It's not like, I mean, we're in mid-April. God knows every Mariner fan has screamed, it's early in the last 3 weeks, right? So why in the hell do you already need mental days off? You're 3 fucking weeks into the season. You're supposed to be the guy on this team, unless maybe he's not ready for this mentally. I don't think that's true because he's obviously showed he can play. But there is some sort of disconnect there. I mean, they said this last show. When Julio when he got walked, I think it was late in the game, and he got walked on 5 pitches. And he throws his bat to the dugout. This was the last homestand before this current one. He throws his bat, and he's pounding his chest as he's running down to first base. And, the crowd got all excited. I mean, I'm like, dude, you walked.
You walked.
You were rewarded for doing nothing.
Yeah.
And you're pounding your chest? Fucking put a ball in the gap and leg out 3.
Right.
Or 2.
Right.
Then
you can pound your chest.
2 game-winning RBI hits. I think he's had the game-winning RBI in 2 games this year. So he is responsible for 2 of their 7 wins. It's about, 25, 23%, something like that.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of shaking you need a mental day off. What? But it's this, again, goes back to this oversell. We got to get that message out there, and we got to pound it in.
Are we that soft? Are we that soft nowadays where we have to give mental breaks to professional baseball players with off days?
3 weeks into the season, look, it legitimately, if it was June or July, well, even July's bullshit because you got the All-Star break. But if it was early July and then half the teams don't play either July 3rd or 4th, if it was mid to late June and he said that and he'd been playing almost every day, I get that. But come on, 3 weeks in, it's not even. Here's the thing: I don't even believe it's true. I believe it's just an excuse. It's a bullshit justification. It's like listening to a corporation send out emails about how great the building's doing while it's on fire in the other corner. It's this over message, and people buy into it, man. People buy into it.
Yeah, I agree.
It's mental day off. I guess everybody does. You get every Thursday off this month, or you at least through this week you do. So you're already getting days off. That's why that's why the regular season's beginning on March 25th and ending on fucking October 9th. Is because guys wanted more days off during the year, and everybody did. The pitchers needed it, health-wise needed it. Lord knows that you have elbows exploding left and right. Tommy John gets mentioned so much, you'd think he's an unrestricted free agent right now. That term is just, bubbling out there because so many pitchers are getting hurt. So there is some truth, but just not 3 weeks into the season. I thought that was weak sauce, McGee.
Yeah, that was 100% weak sauce, McGee. All right, my loser of the week, and I'm not afraid to say it. It is Julio Rodriguez. This is a dude that's supposed to be the guy to carry the lineup. He is supposed to be the straw that stirs the drink. He's supposed to be the alpha, the omega, the whatever. He's baseball Jesus in Seattle. Okay, and this year has not. He has again not gotten off to a good start, but particularly over the course of these last 5 days, 3 for 17, 8 Ks, 1 walk, 2 RBI. And the 2 RBI came it came in the first of these last 5 games, and literally has not done jack shit. And of course there was the mental day off, the mental break day. But for the most part, Julio Rodriguez has gotten off to I could have easily went with Mitch Garver, although I thought that would have been, beating a dead horse. But
we'll get to him later, I'm sure.
Yeah. But really for the most part, it is Julio Rodriguez, a guy who was supposed to be carrying this team, the guy who was supposed to be, and what's aggravating is when you see, Ronald Acuna and some of these other superstars. Fucking Jared Kelenic got off to a hot start. Fucking Teoscar Hernandez got off to a hot start.
Who'd they play for last year?
Yeah. Although if they were still in Seattle's lineup, they probably wouldn't have gotten off to a hard start.
No, they'd be buried. They'd be buried hitting 8th in the lineup.
And just his approach, his overall approach when you're watching pitchers busting him aside and he's trying to cheat to try to get the bat head out. He's swinging at balls that, he's swinging at pitches that, are far too inside, or, he like right now, it just feels like he's on fucking Mars and, not in the batter's box. So I'll just say this, that we all know that Julio is going to perform. He's going to pick it up. I think we both have no doubts, but you can't give praise to a dude who right now is, the farthest thing from a superstar, playing the farthest thing from a superstar.
Yeah. I would agree. Good call. My winner of the week is a guy he's only paid pitches tonight, and he's only pitched once. But it was an important game. Logan Gilbert, I thought, had an outing that the Mariners absolutely had to have. He is my winner of the week. Only pitched once because of just the way the rotation's been set up over the last 8 days. But pitched a whale of a game in Toronto. Frankly, a game they should have lost, if you think about it. But he went 7 2/3. God forbid a starter go into the 8th inning. Still only threw 89 pitches. He didn't even hit the 90 mark. 1 earned run in that game, and I thought pitched really phenomenal. He walked 1 guy, 8 strikeouts. Just was really the start they needed. And frankly, we're lucky that they didn't lose anyway because the offense was so shitty. Probably even got outpitched by Yusei Kikuchi in that game, but answered the bell inning after inning after inning, and is really the only reason that they avoided a sweep. Jorge Polanco made a nice catch over his shoulder, which was a sight for sore eyes because he's had some defensive gaffes. He drops that ball in the bottom of the ninth. It's a walk-off.
It's over.
Toronto, and they end up getting swept in that. So it was really a game the Mariners had to have just to even remotely come out of their saving face. And I just, Logan Gilbert quietly did not get talked about, totally under the radar, has not had credit for a win yet. I don't even think he has I think he's 0-0 still.
Yep.
I don't even think he has a record. And he started what?
3.
Yeah, I guess he started 3 games. Yeah. So
and he goes tonight.
He does go tonight. Yes.
In what I would consider a fairly big game for the Mariners, the opportunity to get your first series win.
Oh yeah.
Against the Reds.
Scott Service has already got the cue card for post game written and ready.
All I'm saying is against a Reds team that has been very, very, very good on the road so far this season, and an opportunity to take 2 out of 3 against a Reds team with
before you go to Colorado and play a dog shit team that you should really sweep.
This would be this, and of course Logan right now is probably our best starter. I'm going with Jorge Polanco. I know that I gave a lot of love to Emerson Hancock earlier in the show, rightfully so, but I'll say this, man. Over the course of the last 4 games, he's only 4 for 11, but he's hit 2 home runs, driven in 5. He's also walked 6 times to only 4 strikeouts. And the thing that I like about this is it's finally somebody else besides Mitch Haniger who's finally starting to turn things around a little bit in the Mariners lineup. You would like to see a little bit more than just Haniger and Polanco, but you know what? Last night was good enough. And it's, after the start that Polanco got off to, it's nice to finally starting to see a professional hitter starting to kind of act like a professional hitter.
It's good to see some production from the second base position for once.
But it's also nice to see some production in the top 5 of the order. Holy shit. So that is my winner of the week. Any last thoughts? What do you think is going to happen tonight? What do you got tonight?
I think they end up probably with at least winning 2 or 3 in this series. The PR machine is going to hype it up, that they've turned it around and that we're not that far back in the division. And then I'll play it's early card and we got a long way to go. I think it's important that they go to Colorado. I think it's important that they probably win these next 2 against the Reds and minimum get 2 or 3 in Colorado before you head into that gargantuan stretch of Rangers, Braves. You got a tough stretch of baseball coming for about 12 days in there that I really think is, could kick you in the balls if you're not ready for it. So I think it's important to kind of pile up some wins now before you get into the groove, because next thing you know, it's going to be May. And by the time you get to May, about 10th, it's early shit is out the window. I don't care if it's only early May. It's not early anymore. And you got to avoid these slow starts because I cannot believe that Houston is going to continue to suck like this.
No, they're not.
I can't believe the Angels continue to stink and the A's. Houston's really the one that kind of surprises me, and the Texas has been kind of mediocre out of the gate. But look at some of the other teams around the American League. They're who, if you do make the playoffs, that's who you're going to have to compete against. So you better start showing that you've got something real very soon.
Yeah. I will say this: don't sleep on those Oakland A's. I think they've won 2 series in a row, and that little
better than a lot of people thought.
Better than a lot of people thought. All right, before we go, this is Trivia Tuesday, and I forgot to do this at the top of the show, but it is right here. Okay. In 2001, John Allrood hit for the cycle. He was the blank Mariner to hit for the cycle.
I think at the time.
Mm-hmm.
At the time, I think he was the 3rd. I want to say Dan Wilson had done it before him, and Jay Buhner had done it before him.
It was actually, you're right. It was the 3rd. Okay. Jay Buhner was the first to do it.
Okay.
And that was on June 23rd, 1993. Okay. Mm-hmm. The second to accomplish the feat was Alex Rodriguez in June of 1997.
Oh,
and
wow. I don't remember that.
And you're absolutely right. John Allrood was the 3 who did it in 2001.
Okay. When did Wilson do it then?
I do not believe Wilson hit for the side. He may have.
Maybe I'm thinking of it. Maybe I'm confusing it with Inside the Park Grand Slam that he had.
Yeah, he definitely did that. He definitely hit the Inside the Park Grand Slam. He definitely did that. All right. Well, that's going to do it. Yeah. Well, you were right. All right. So that's gonna do it for our show today. We will be back next Tuesday, and I'm thinking about flirting with the Sunday special. That could still be in the works, but watch out on Twitter for that announcement. But until that goes down, we will be back next week. You guys have a great week. Enjoy the baseball, and hopefully the Mariners can continue the trend tonight and get their first series win. Although I think a lot of us probably won't hold our breath. Take it easy, guys.
Take care.